Well, welcome to a very special random foreplay with a very special guest. I'm Joe, or JSB, and tonight I'm celebrating 30 years of the John Payne era Asia classic, Arena. And to help me do that is, well, none other than John Payne himself. So welcome, John. It's great to have you on
Yeah,
board.
I'm alive. I'm still alive 30 years later. And it's so funny. You spend so much time, probably spent 6 months to a year recording that album and writing it, that a lot of it's ingrained in you. I can close my eyes and see one of the tapes on the machine being chewed up halfway through recording it, or um,
Yikes.
walking down to the local pub, called Mistress P's, with me and Geoff and a couple of guys from the band. Um, they're recording an album is a very special experience, and it gets deeply ingrained in your soul, and Arena was definitely one of those.
Excellent. So for those who are new to the channel, and I include John in that, and maybe you're wondering what on earth a random foreplay is, don't worry, it's pretty simple. Yes, it's basically I'm going to take a piece of art that John lovingly worked on for a year and crafted and sequenced as a complete work, and then utterly destroy it.
Good.
Or rather, I hope deconstruct it rather by throwing it on shuffle and selecting 4 songs from it along the way to have a listen to and drive our discussion handily. There are 12 songs on this album, so each round, one of us will get the choice of 3 randomly selected songs to pick from. And you never know what's going to come up. Sometimes your choices are obvious, and other times they're almost impossible. So I kind of call it Russian roulette with music. Um,
Cool.
John, before we dive into the randomness, do you have any opening thoughts about Arena that you'd like to share?
Um, it was a cool period in my life. I'd moved to the just to the Chelsea part of London, and we'd built a studio across the Thames River, the other side from Chelsea, in a place called Clapham. Um, and it was 2 studios. There was a studio beneath us, run by kind of a stoner band called More Cheaper, who were actually very good. And it was a kind of a unique time, and I was particularly wanting to co-engineered it with my friend John Bruff, who worked a lot with Queen. He's a great engineer, and he particularly Freddie. He worked a lot with Freddie, and some of the stuff was at a very interesting live room, great sounding live room, and I had this strange idea of recording a lot of the things from the musician's perspective.
Right.
So at a piano or at a Fender Rhodes or at a drum kit, there'd always be a set, or at the guitar place, there'd be a set of mics where your ears are. So you wouldn't just have the mic on the guitar cab, you'd actually hear it from the musician's perspective as well. So there's an odd hi-fi-ness about Aqua, about Arena, that wasn't present on Aqua or any of the other albums, and it was kind of an experiment, and it kind of worked. If especially if you listen on headphones, it does sound kind of strangely 3D, and that is why.
Right. I mean, I
Never mentioned it
probably,
before, actually.
you know, it's certainly a lushly produced album that has a lot of sonic wonders to it. So yeah, shall we dive in and hear a track
Let's do that.
and kick you off by seeing which 3 random songs I'm going to give you a choice between. Um, and this is, as I say, not premeditated in any way. I'm as in the dark as you as to what might come up in what order. So here we
Yeah.
go. We have got You Bring Me Down, the title track, Arena, or Heaven. Um, 3 great ones, so I'll leave it in your hands as to which of those we should kick off with.
I suppose we'll start with the show with Arena, even though those are 2 cool tracks. But I think we'll start from the title track and then get deeper.
All right, that seems like a logical place to go to me. So here we go. In a second, just before I do start playing the music, as usual, there's 2 versions of this video. There's actually an even longer version which has the music in it. Otherwise, there's a link to that below. If you know this album and you just want to hear me and John talk about it, stay here. If you need to hear the songs, and if you don't know them, you really need to hear the songs, click the link below and you will find a way to do so. So, kicking us off with the title track, here we go. This is Arena. All right. Great way to kick the show off there. And I had to ask John, with the whole, at this time you were still following the Asia album naming tradition of starts with A, ends with A, one word. So did the song come first or did the title come first on this one?
I think the title came first, and then I decided to write a track with Geoff around that. And I mean, this one's a departure from some of the songs of the previous album, and this is the first album. We had Elliott Randall from Steely Dan on, and
Yeah.
I wanted to create something pretty hi-fi, and there's even a Latin influence to this track with the percussion and the bass line being that way, and it seemed lyrically apropos, and also we'd had the artwork done even before we wrote this song, and it's a magnificent piece of artwork. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm obscuring it, but there's the
Yeah, by Rodney Matthews, and the fight between good and evil. There's a little arena on this. There's a lot of messages in the album cover alone. There's the tape reels turning into skull planets, and two figures fighting in an arena, and this majestic winged lion.
Who would later, well, maybe one of his descendants would appear on the Dukes of the Orient albums as well.
Yes, exactly. And that was, obviously influenced by that. But and both those things done by Rodney Matthews.
And I mean, I know when people talk about Yes, a major artwork, that Roger Dean is the man, but I have to say that Arena and Aqua, which is Rodney's other contribution, those are my two favorite Asia album covers. I think
they're incredible.
just both of
them. With Aqua being machine designed by man against nature. It was a very environmental cover that Rodney captured this mechanical whale and the flying dolphins in the sea, and in a water galaxy. It's just phenomenal. And we remain friends to this day, and we really get each other. I don't know anyone that is as deep in, is almost like an extra limb for the band, particularly at that time.
It's a gorgeous piece, and it's the only thing is, of course, this came out in the CD age, and it would have been wonderful to have it as a big gatefold vinyl LP, but I guess that wasn't to be at that point in time.
Well, I think it will be to be. That's planning all this time later, but vinyl has even more of a place with us than CD does now. So
yeah, I was going to assume that we might never see a re-release of the album, so that is great news if that's in the works.
Yeah.
So I just have to ask, because you were at this point, I mean, throughout your whole tenure with Asia, you were wearing a load of hats. As you said, you co-engineered the album, you co-wrote it, you co-produced it, you're lead vocalist, bassist, sometimes guitarist. Did that ever get a bit overwhelming, or were you just completely in your element doing all of those many things?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, even at a pro level, have other things that they do in their life, or a family, or a wife and kids, and maybe they dabble in real estate or something. I don't know, but it's always been my 100% focus. So, and I love engineering. I'm an equipment nerd. I a complete OCD as regards mixes, balances, and EQ techniques. When I started, I was around doing session work in the 70s and worked with all these great producers when I was working with, say, Roger Daltrey or Mike Oldfield or ELO, with Jim
Mm,
Steinman and all these like incredible uh, players, players, producers and mixers and Andy Johns and all these people and friendly with Alan Parsons. So I got into that very, very strongly with Asia, and Geoff encouraged me because he'd seen that with working with Trevor
mm.
Horn, who was an incredible producer, mixer guy, but also in a similar position to me as a bass player, frontman of Buggles. So to this
And
day,
Horse as well.
yeah, yes, 90125 particularly. Um, and just across the hallway where I am now, I actually am going to take us all for a little walk.
Oh, lovely.
So um, to this day, um, this is my home, but it's also my recording studio. So here
Wow.
is my control room, and I have an equally as big live
Oh,
room
wow. Yeah.
where I work
I
on
won't.
stuff.
I won't take you on a tour of my place. It would take 3 seconds anyway. But oh, that's incredible. And
But yeah,
while you're wandering back, I just had to ask about Arena because you mentioned before we began recording the new version that you've been playing live, which I happily saw you do at Shepherd's Bush last year.
yeah.
You mentioned on stage something about AI, and I really didn't follow the story, if I'm honest, as to
So yeah, I
how
probably
that had come
shouldn't say.
about.
So someone sent me a track that they'd done an AI version of Arena, their own version, and it's completely AI'd, everything on it, and the arrangement and the up temponess and the more rock version of it was really cool. So, as much as I hate AI, I thought, well, let's beat them at this. Let's do our version of someone else's version of our track, and it's one of my favorite tracks to play in the set at the moment. It's
Right.
it's it's different, but it's still, lyrically and musically the same, but it's not as Latin or as kind of hi-fi. It's a bit more rock, and I thought, no, it's cool, and at the moment we're enjoying doing that.
Nice one. And that was, uh, had you played a long set, which I was delighted by, but that was the only track that you could fit in from this album. So everything else that we touch upon today will be
And we got in trouble. We got in trouble from the place of like basically saying we're not going to have you back because you
oh,
overplayed
breaking
most of
curfew. Mm.
it. Yeah.
It was late on a Sunday night. I didn't even realize the time was going by until we got out
No, a
there.
lot of people like when they miss their connections home.
Well, Londoners are prone to just dashing out when they need to, so I'm sure that wouldn't have caught too many people out. I was happy to be right there from the go to the end. So now it's my turn to pick a song,
Okay.
and I hope I don't get it wrong. My choices are going to be between Two Sides of the Moon,
Right.
The Day Before the War, or
Right.
Turn It Around. Oh, and this is exactly what I mean when I talk about tough choices. Um, I might have gone a different way on another day, but because, again, something you mentioned earlier is that you just an hour or two ago posted one of these songs to your Facebook page. So it would be churlish of me to go another route. So even though the proggier fans of Asia will be
The
spitting at
Prog
me for
fans love Two Sides of
going
the
past
Moon.
The Day Before the War.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Day Before the War. I mean, yeah, the Proggy
Yeah,
fans love that track, but
and
Turn It Around is
yeah,
a least played track, and then Two Sides of the Moon um, has got a little bit of 90125 influence to it. That was one of my things of having a riff that was kind of like Owner of a Lonely Heart, and it's about and it's quite kind of putting now on Two Sides of the Moon because um, we fight, but we're all basically intrinsically the same. We're all,
Yeah,
we all want happiness, and we're all, you know, carbon entities. That it's crazy in this day and age that we're still at wars.
yeah, exactly. And Two Sides of the Moon, of course, along with Arena, was one of the two tracks that I first heard from this album, because the anthology album that came out the following year, that was my first Asia album. That was my introduction to the band. So,
Okay,
uh,
you went backwards.
yeah, which, yeah, I think gives me a pretty unique perspective on the whole ins and outs of the band over the years. It's an odd place to have come in, and then the next thing I got was the debut on vinyl. So, and then I just sort of worked from each end into the middle, and it worked for me. So, but yeah, we're not hearing that, which is probably my mum's favourite. Sorry, mum. Uh, so we will go instead to turn it around, and well, obviously talk about it afterwards. But yeah, this is another favourite of mine anyway. So let's hear it. Here we go. Yeah. Well, as you alluded to earlier, that sounds fabulous through the headphones.
That's an interesting song, that one. It's more about a relationship thing. Normally, I don't sing very many relationship type songs, but that was an unusual one. The chorus came to me um, from the drummer, Michael Sturgis, at the time.
Right, because I
Uh,
noticed he's got a co-writing credit on just this track on this album. So
yeah, and he
that's
came to us with it, and then he had very much the melody and most of the lyrics on the chorus, but I think the verse and the bridge and all that kind of stuff uh, was by me, um, and I remember having a little thing. He didn't like me changing one lyric to "I won't shoot your defenses down," and I just thought that was stronger. And I remember him having the lyric "I won't let your defenses down," and I just felt that "shoot" was just more graphic. Um,
yeah. He
but
thanks you for that in the end.
yeah, so he was good in the end with it. But um, it's a cool song. I'm singing in a more lyrical part of my voice, not pushing it very hard. And um, there's a couple of bits vocally where um, and melodically I'm influenced by Steve Perry uh, on it, especially "Whoa, whoa, whoa" at the beginning, which is a very kind of Sam Cooke, Steve
Yeah.
Perry line. But it's, I heard it for the first time today in 30 years, and not listened to it for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it still stands up. I believe it still stands up. It doesn't sound dated to me. That could come out
No.
today and it will still be,
Yeah.
you know,
And that hook is simple, but it's
yeah.
infectious.
And
And
it's a great guitar solo. Um, it's a great guitar solo by, again, Elliott Randall from Steely Dan. Just
yeah,
nothing flash musically, but just great sound, a fuzz tone on his famous 60s Strat, his 63 Stratocaster.
and
Um,
it's the song rather than, as you say, being
yes,
just played because we
it's,
know what he can do.
it's supportive. Yeah, exactly.
And your vocal as well is, I mean, I could say this about any song that you sing, really, but there's so much passion in your voice uh, that really draws the listener in.
I think people
And
either like it or hate it. It's like you're being over dramatic. Some people say, "Oh, it's not
um,
opera," but
yeah,
um,
there's
I'm,
theatricality to it, I'm sure, but I don't know, I feel the richness to it
you know,
personally.
I've got my influences, but um, I don't really try and copy anybody else. I'm just me, and I often have trouble if we're going to sing someone else's song. I I I'm not a good emulator of. Some people can sing uh you know anybody's song and like sound great and sound just like that person or sound similar. That's I can't do that. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, I suppose. But I'm very much me. I've got my own kind of vibrato. I've got a thing where I can go from a very smooth note and put a chesty, throaty sound onto it, and that's just my thing, and it always has been.
Mm. And I know you obviously don't listen to your older work because why would you? I mean, it took me years to get used to the sound of my own voice, and now I can't get enough of it. But
It's
no,
like
in all
writing a
seriousness,
book. It's equivalent to if you've written a book. Why would you need to keep rereading your own book? And
yeah,
a lot of people can't let go of what they've done or whatever. But it's a little diary of where you are at that moment in time. And then I'm more interested in writing a new diary, which I'm doing painstakingly slowly
yeah,
at the moment. But the new album, Aviana, is still in the works.
yeah. I'm certainly going to touch on that before we end as well, because I know I've been hearing this album title for I should say a while now. Uh,
Long,
but when
yeah,
it's ready, it'll be ready, and I'll be ready for it. So don't
yeah.
rush, just do your thing. and and the whole thing of having replaced an iconic singer in a band, but still being yourself, I think that is why it works, because there's bands, and we could name them, who have just gotten sound alikes over the years, and even if they record
I,
new material, it just
yeah. And I got to give Geoff kudos for that. As many people know, we had a falling out, and now it's I don't care anymore. But at the time, we had it was a difficult time, I think, for both of us. Him, having the chance of putting the original lineup together, and me, as I said, 100% into the band, and 16 years in, it's the rug's pulled away. So, it's difficult. But one thing that Geoff didn't want me to be like John Wetton. He wanted me to be my own thing, and I bought a different thing vocally. I mean, Wetton's was a great vocalist, bass player, songwriter, incredible. I still listen to, you know, um, I'm a fan of his works from UK to King Crimson to Asia, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So, um, like In the Dead of Night, what a great song. And although I'd only ever met him once, with Geoff actually, when they did an album together called Rockade Armenia, we met at the Russian embassy in London. But to do my own thing was incredible. I had an incredible free hand in writing and singing, and getting hold of production and engineering and all that stuff. Geoff really did let me be who I am. And very often you join a band and you're the new boy, so you do as you're told, and you have to sing like the previous singer. I know they've the original Asia now have got a new singer, and he sounds very much like Wetton, um, which is a completely different thing than where I came from. Um, Deep Purple or whatever when they changed, singers from the, the, all the singers they've had, and as Richie's other project, Rainbow, everybody sounded different
mm,
and did their own thing, from Joe Lynn Turner to Ian Gillan to whoever the first Purple singer was. But uh, it was nice for me to put my own stamp on it, and it was a change for people. But at the time, you've already had those first three iconic albums. Um, it would it to me, if I tried to, and I can't sing like John Wetton. Similar range, but I can't sing like John Wetton. It would have been to me like being a covers band if Geoff hadn't given me that freedom. So I give him kudos a lot for doing that, and we spent 16 years of every day doing something Asia, which is kind of
Yeah.
unheard
Um,
of, you know.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to touch on the fact that I'm not sure of the gestation period of this album, but there were a lot of outtakes, many of which would end up on the Archiva albums later the same year, actually. But how difficult was it to arrive at the final track listing for
I
an album
actually
like this?
I think pretty easy, you know. We had some great songs like Boys of Diamond City, which was an Aqua outtake, and some cool songs. And we found a lot of stuff after a flood. You know, basically we'd record nearly double the amount of songs for an album, and usually it'd be pretty clear. We very rarely argued about what should go on an album. I don't think my thing was with a co-writer or someone I'm working with. If you've got to fight that to agree on something, a chorus or a song, then it's not right. You know, it should if you want to expect the public to like it, if the two of you aren't in agreement on it, then you know it shouldn't go on. And we found all these tracks, and then we got offered a record deal, which actually enabled us from a friend called Rob Ailing from VoicePrint which enabled us to buy a residential studio in Wales, which is a huge studio. So the Archiva albums 1 and 2, that was the reason behind that.
Oh. Well, I'm glad that they came out because so often you've got gems that just once you've moved on from the album you were making, they just get forgotten. And I
Yeah,
mean, nowadays someone would really re-release stuff with bonus tracks and try and make some more money out of it. But we got that nice and early in this case. So the flood did us a favour.
yeah.
So it's a chance for you now, John, to pick our next track. And we've got a couple of the instrumentals that book in the album are still in the mix here, along with some other interesting cuts. So let's see what you want to go with from this selection, which gives us Words Into the Arena or Bellanova. Now, I swear, mentioning the two instrumentals there was not premeditated. I didn't have any clue that they were both going to come up in this batch of songs. So
Well,
do you want to go with one of those, or do you want to have literally the one with words in it?
words. Let's do words.
Words, excellent. And
There was
this,
kind of a traditional thing. We used to end and start an album often with instrumental songs. You know.
yeah, it followed kind of the Aqua
Exactly.
style of doing it. Yeah. Um, so this one, uh, pay close attention to the guitar because this is a chance to hear John doing
Oh
even
yeah,
more things.
my flying V. I did this on my flying V.
Oh wow. Okay. So I'll be listening out for that. And yeah, this is. I'm glad you picked this anyway because it's one of my favourites. I mean, I'm going to say that about every song here, but there we go. Here it is. It's Words. Let's do it. All right. Yeah, another excellent selection, sir. Now, so you've
Well,
got
yeah,
multi-layered vocals on that. I mean, as you do on a lot of tracks. So how do
yeah.
you
I love.
have it all in your head before you start, or how does that work?
Um, this one, usually I start with a melody and then the lyrics, and then once I've laid down the main lead vocal, usually I've got ideas of those big vocal pads, and I sing them all. You know, it's like 4 parts of one voice, 4 parts of the third, 4 parts of the seventh, 4 parts of falsetto and falsetto third, falsetto seventh. So it's like the Queen thing. And my little time in ELO, and also my time with doing backing vocals for a lot of major artists in the 70s when I kind of first started. I'm really into that harmony thing. And the beginning of that actually with the Moog synthesizer and the acoustic guitars and stuff reminds me almost of Styx, you know.
Mm.
And it's a cool thing that it's not a normal like verse chorus um, format. It's a melody, and the melody is repeated on guitar, um, and there's no drums in in the verses or in the acoustic guitar bit. It's kind of a cool arrangement, and then the guitar following the melody. What a lot of people don't realize is I started off as a guitarist. Guitar was my first instrument before anything
Right.
else.
Yeah.
And even to this fact that now I have a little side project that I've been doing blues, playing blues guitar. Um, but yeah, I've not heard that since that was mixed. So I was probably I heard it last time when we were mastering the album uh, in London at CBS. But I remember that was my Gibson Flying V into a Marshall Silver Jubilee, and uh, and yeah, it's cool. It. I didn't even remember where it was going, you know,
Oh,
um, and it's just yeah, 30 years since I've heard that.
well, oh, it's only about a day since I've heard it, but it still sounds just as good to me as well. So, um, so you mentioned the guitar, and I don't know how long it took me to realize how good a guitarist you are. It might have only been last year when I saw you actually play, because I mean, you instinctively know, oh, he plays guitar on some songs, but then you're in a band that has had Steve Howe or Guthrie
Oh man,
Govan or these people, Elliott Randall.
I mean,
Ah,
I love, you know, and I, I've had such great guitarists in the band. I mean, incredible, including, you know, both Jeff Coleman and Doug Rappaport, who played there, and they've all been very enthusiastic about my guitar playing. And you know, we wanted to work with Jeff Beck just before he died. I wanted him on this new album, and we'd had the same manager for a lot of time, Simon Napier Bell, who managed Asia and the Yardbirds. And unfortunately, Jeff passed away. But um, you know, I choose to take on one of the greatest guitarists ever lived. So we do a version of, as you know, of "We Ended as Lovers," and I play guitar on that. And tone and guitar playing is dear to my heart.
well, I mean, how do you see yourself as? Did you move to bass just because of coming into Asia, or is that? I mean, obviously, it
Basically,
was always
yes.
in your arsenal.
I played bass on a lot of demos of mine when I was songwriting, so I always had a bass guitar around. And when Jeff asked me to join, I basically had three, two, two or three bass players that I really liked growing up. One was Paul McCartney. The other was Andy Fraser from Free, who's a
Hmm.
great bass player, you know, bass partner right now. And then a guy who got relatively friendly with, Chris Squire. And so basically, when I joined Asia, Jeff said the caveat is you've got to play bass and sing. And it's like, I'd not done that before. And I had to work really hard at doing that, especially with songs like Who'll Stop the Rain, where the bass parts on the beat like this, and the vocals, Who tells the wind? So they're actually like a 16th apart. And so it took me a while to get that. And so I really studied John Wetton, studied what he did and what he played with songs like Time Again and um, uh, cool songs where the syncopation between the vocal and the bass would just start doing things with your left and right hand. And that was my education. So it kind of helped me fit Asia really well, that I was almost mentally a blank slate joining Asia as a bass player. And also, I didn't want to overplay. You know, a lot of guitarists, guys who go from guitar to bass, end up really overplaying the bass parts and become Billy Sheehan or whatever. Not knocking Billy because he's a great player, but um,
Yeah,
that's what's not what Asia's about. Asia's about, like, you know, hitting a root and you staying with it and the chords changing sometimes to create this tension. So and also, you know, the players, particularly Wet and Squire, you know, have both pretty overdriven bass sound, which I like too, which is you know what I do. And I have my own signature bass now from Brown's Guitars, which is very cool, which I played at the show you came and saw, which is half fretless, half fretted bass.
yeah.
And I play with a very overdriven sound. But yeah, it's great now, and um, I'll play guitar on a few Asia songs live, and it's great that the guitarist in the band actually let me do it without thinking, oh God, just let's let him do that and just have his fun. But they've been very supportive.
Well, yeah, I think if you weren't up to mustard, they'd probably let you know. But I mean, who knows? You are the boss after
Who,
all.
who knows? Who knows? But I do have my own approach guitars. I've got my own vibrato. I'm very based in English guitarists from the '60s. I'm not I'm not a shredder. I'm not like Guthrie, who's just not human.
Yeah,
I'm more into people like, yeah, Gary Moore, Jan Ackerman, um, that kind of player, Jeff Beck, obviously, and Clapton, and a lot of the blues players. And Paul Kossoff is a big influence on me guitar wise from Free. But yeah, I love playing guitar and bass, and on the albums now, so I play a little bit of keyboards as well. Um, so they're all musical tools to aid the song rather than the song following the instrument.
right. Oh, that all makes sense. And as I say, I'm looking forward to hearing what you do on the next album when it comes. But one last song to choose from this one, and anybody who knows the album will know what the three songs are that are left, and I do. And I'm going to choose one. And I don't know that I'm going to choose one that I would have thought I would have, if that makes any sense at all. Because at that gig, and I said this in my review, you played a couple of songs that I thought, oh yeah, that's not one I would have chosen, but actually that's much a much better song than I thought of in my head. This are songs like "The Longest Night," which really came to life for me in that performance. So I'm going to turn to a song that, just listening to this album over the last couple of days, I feel like I've underrated for about 25 years, or however long I've owned the album. It's not the full 30 years that I've had this, but it's close to. Um, so just to go through the motions and see what order they come up in officially, we have got "Falling," "Tell Me Why," or "Never." So "Never" is actually probably my favorite of those three, but the one I'm talking about, and we're going to hear, is this one, "Falling." So let's
Oh wow,
end uh,
I'm doing a lot of falsetto on this one. I've not heard this for 30 years.
the years as well. So we'll see what you make of it after all this time.
It's got a bit of
Yeah,
Supertramp influence, if I remember this one.
do you know? I think, I mean, you know better than I do. I just wonder if, yeah, I don't know if you're aware of this book on
Yes.
Asia on track, every album, every song. Uh, Falling, they say, here we have another pop song with a Sibley's keyboard texture in the manner of Supertramp. So they picked up on that.
Okay.
It's actually, for that series, it's hit and miss, that series, but I think that one's pretty good, and it covers your era properly. It doesn't gloss over things and just say, "Oh, Wetton's all that counts." So we'll just these ones happened as well, as some books do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I applaud it for that. And yeah, let's hear "Falling" for John for the first time in 30 years.
Well.
All right, there we go. How was that 30 years later for you?
Um, I'm I'm impressed that we did that. I know it's got some pop elements. I'm really pleased with the hooks on it and the dynamics of it vocally, and the drums by Michael Sturgis. There's some bits remind me very much of Vinnie Colaiuta, who we got to work with um, on Aura. But the
Hmm.
the hi hat work and the drums are great. There's an underlying reggae vibe to it. Um, there's bits that remind. Do you know what it reminds me of? Actually, more than Supertramp is 10cc. It's
Hmm.
got the vibes with the falsetto vocals and stuff, and there's a lot of vocal textures in there. I worked very hard on that song. Um, and it's not your traditional Asia song, I know, but you know, Arena was supposed to be a bit of a departure from more. it's less AOR. It's
Mhm.
got things of Steely Dan, 10cc, Supertramp, of those bands, and there's a pop element, and that's one thing that people and I really got to grasp with Geoff, is that one thing about Asia compared to a lot of the prog and AOR bands, there was always a pop element.
Mhm.
You know, Don't Cry, Heat of the Moment, Only Time Will Tell. Even though there was the proggy aspects, that there very much was a musical melodic um, connection, and you hear it, strongly in that one. You know, I wish that album was probably out 10 years before that, and I think it would have received
Yeah,
more radio play. Um, the
I mean, the 90s was the worst possible decade to be a quote unquote 80s band, but
Yes,
when you're
exactly.
putting out music of that quality, then you just hope that it
Um,
finds an audience. So.
yeah, and I'd forgotten, and I don't want to sound I don't want to sound I'm patting my own back, but I've forgotten that what a good album uh, Arena is, and I don't mean that from my point of view. I just mean that as a whole thing, that and it doesn't sound dated. Um, a lot of times when you do the big gated drum sound or the big Bon Jovi choirs or whatever, you get it sounds dated, but this doesn't, and it's even on the speakers on my MacBook. It sounds hi-fi and well balanced and nice reverbs and room spaces and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, it's I'm glad you made me go through this.
Well, I'm very thankful for you subjecting yourself to my random ways. I hope it has been enjoyable because I know I saw an interview with you where you really said, "I don't like looking back at things. I want to move on." It's like, oh God, I hope he doesn't absolutely hate this whole thing.
No, it's been a breath of fresh air. It's been good, and I like where you've come from it at a different angle. I think that makes it interesting to the artist and the public, and just see a little bit into the window of you know what we were doing. And there's definitely a sound to this album. Arena has its sound. It's
Mm.
like uh, uh, Aria had its sound, and there's Aria was more of a rock album, and this is more of a, a deeper, um, different. Every album's been different, so um, you hear the influences of all the players there. Michael Sturgis, Geoff, of course, and then
Yeah,
Elliott Randall's guitar playing is just so greatly understated, but
yeah.
brilliant.
And this was kind of in between the other extremes of the Asia albums because, as you say, it's quite a diverse catalogue just within your era, let alone
Yeah,
everything outside of that. But Aria and Silent Nation are kind of like the type band albums, and then you've got Aqua and Aura, which are more, uh, I don't know if you call them guest oriented in terms of the
yeah,
lineup, but it's
yeah.
people per song. And then this is kind of a halfway house between those two approaches.
It,
Was
it
that
is exactly.
deliberate?
Yeah,
Or
I just think things happened the way they happened. I think particularly um, Aria was deliberate, that it was a four-piece band. I don't think, if I'm right, I don't think there's any guest players on Aria.
mm,
Um, and as you say, the extremes. Aqua was a lot of different players, from even Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy, and Simon Phillips, and Cole Palmer, and Steve Howe. A lot of different players on that album. Um, so yeah, this was kind of a halfway house, and um, I'm proud of this piece of work. It's you know it's a huge. It's like making. God knows what making a movie is like, but
mm,
to me, it's like making a movie. You're drawing a picture, and all the parts on this album worked. All the players, the artwork, and the sound, and what we had sound wise going on, and that little idea I had of having microphones as ears, so you were hearing it from a lot of the perspective of the players. It's kind of cool,
Yeah,
a cool timepiece.
having said that, I'm hearing it in a different way after all this time as well. I mean, you kind of these things soak through the music, but you don't until someone actually points it out to you. You maybe don't realize why things feel a little bit different about this compared to so much
Yeah.
else that's out there. And so I'm really glad to hear that you enjoyed the process and are looking back fondly on this album. Has it sprung anything for you in terms of other songs to revisit for live performances or?
I just wish when that album came out, we toured playing more of those songs. I don't think we toured very much during that time period.
No, and I mean, you could even get a proper US distribution, if I remember rightly.
Right, that's right.
It was a dreadful time to be in the music business making proper
Yeah,
music in 1996.
yeah. But still, at the end of the day, you do music because you love it, and I'm sure there's plenty of other albums that people have put out that are just gems that never got the light of
Oh, I'm
day.
sure. And equally, there's albums from 1996 that sold millions, and nobody's listened to them since 1997, probably. So
Yeah, exactly. I know. So, well, and we've got our own challenges now with AI music, and I'm not getting any younger, but I feel I still haven't created my best piece of work. I really feel that. And as old as I am now, I'm lucky that I still have pretty much the same voice that
you must have behaved yourself over the years, or I mean, you don't have to say if you didn't, but you've looked
no,
after yourself.
I a mix of the two. I partied pretty hard sometimes, but a lot of the time as a singer, you've got to be, you can't go on stage drunk or drugged up or whatever in this type of music. And if you do, you're not going to last very long. So yeah, I'm no angel, but I've tried to look after my voice and my playing and all that kind of stuff, and still trying to drive for something, where we can get a little bit of resurgence so that we can go out and tour more and tour bigger places.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to the next chapter of Asia, and obviously we've got a new Asia album coming out from Geoff and his current lineup as well. But I hope that doesn't interfere with your plans. And Asia featuring John Payne, as you are now, goes from strength to strength. And yeah, Aviana comes out, and well, I'll just wait for it to happen when it does.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
thanks, John, so much for coming on and doing some recollections and reminiscences with me. Oh, I managed to say that word. I didn't think I was going to. It's been fantastic to have you. And
Thank you.
for those who don't like to look back at themselves, you've done a great job. And speaking of which, I started this channel about 2 years ago, and one of the first albums I looked at was Aria. And I did it in a slightly different fashion where I just literally played whatever first four songs came up. My idea being to say, this is a great album. It doesn't matter what songs we play, they're all good. But yeah, if anybody thought this was a primitive video, go and check that one out because it's highly, highly suspect. But it's still with the same passion you got today. So thanks to John and thanks to you for watching. And I'll just say my usual thing, which is it's bye for now, but I really hope not for long.
Cool. Thank you, brother.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.